Hello, and welcome to the Inlay. I'm DM Bigfoot, and today we're going to take a look at the newest game from Kickstarter giant, Cool Mini or Not. Now, if you've heard of that name, then what comes to mind when I say that name are giant games, games filled to the brim with miniatures, games like Super Dungeon Explorer, or Zombicide. Huge boxes filled to the brim with glossy, nice miniatures. And their latest game has miniatures as well. But it just so happens that the box it comes in is just a little bit smaller. This is Guilds of Cadwallon. So sit down and let me take you inside the box, where you will find a deck of nicely square cards and tons of miniatures and some tiddlywinks. And the box inlay is just what it needs to be. One trench for the cards, one for the minis. Done. Now in this game, each player represents a wealthy family wrestling for control of Cadwallon. These cards are districts of that city, most of which are controlled by one of the city's 4 guilds. Now you, the player, will send your agents, your miniatures here, into the city to recruit these guilds for your own means. And the game plays like this. You're going to lay out the city cards in a 3x3 grid to form the board. Now on each player's turn, he's going to take one of his agents and put it in the space between 2 cards. Now when all 12 of the game's boulevards are taken up, then the round is over and everyone takes the cards that they earned over the course of the round. But who gets which card? Well, you'll see at the lower right hand corner of every card is this number. Now this number is the support value of that card, and it goes towards capturing the card on the opposite side of it. So let's say it was like this. The black player has 2 and 2 support, so 4 support on that card. And the yellow player here has 1, so the black player would get that card. And you keep doing this until everyone knows which card they get, and then everyone takes the cards that they've earned off the board, and you repopulate the city from the deck. When this deck can no longer support the city, when it can't refill the city completely anymore, then the game is over and you tally the points for the cards that you've collected over the course of the game. And it's the way that those points are tallied that makes this game incredibly brilliant. Now, there are 4 guilds in this game. The Guild of Blades, the Guild of Goldsmiths, the Guild of Usurers, and the Guild of Architects. And when you have your cards to tally up at the end of the game, you're going to separate them by guild, like so. Then you're going to add together the victory point value of each card in each guild separately. In this case, this is the Guild of Blades, and the victory point, these gold coins in the corner, are 2, 4, 5. Then you're going to multiply that number by the number of cards in the guild, in this case 3. So this is worth 15 points. Over here, the Guild of Architects, you have a collective of 4 points with 2 cards, so it's 8. Altogether, 23 points. So yeah, scoring in this game can get a little bit mathy, with you having to add numbers together and then multiply them and then add your multiplied numbers together again. It can get a little bit much, and sometimes when you're playing board games you don't really want to do that kind of math. But in this game, that mathy mechanic sort of forces you to try to get the same guilds so that you can have the best multiplier. The thing is, all of your opponents around the table know what guilds you're going for. They saw you take them earlier in the round. So you have to try to outmaneuver your opponents and then add so much more strategy to the game. On top of that, there are 3 other kinds of cards in this game that just add so much flavor and spice. Now first are these personality cards. Now personality cards have no support value and are worth no victory points. But what they do is attach to existing sets of guild cards. For example, our Guild of Architects set here from before was worth 8 points. You would attach one of these onto there to increase the multiplier, making this worth 12 points. Now next, we have these action cards. Now, on top of being worth some points themselves, when you get an action card, you can use them on any turn later to have some special effect. For example, this one exchanges 2 cards in the corners of the playing area. And where this can get really nasty is when you add in these militia cards. Now, militia cards work exactly the same as guilds, with one big exception. These are worth negative points. See how the coins in the corners are now black? So, with that in mind, it makes getting 2 or 3 of these exceptionally devastating to your score. But remember, every time you place an agent in a boulevard, it counts for the cards on both sides of that boulevard. So if you need, absolutely need, this Guild of Blades card, are you willing to risk also getting a militia card with it? Or are you going to maneuver your opponent into picking up that militia card? Right there. That one right there. But if you do, what are you giving up? Are you giving up a personality card or an action card that could be the death of you later on in the game? You don't know. You have to think of all that when you're coming up with your strategy. You see, for as simple as this game is, I mean, you only have one decision you're going to have to make every turn. That single decision is incredibly tough because you have to keep in mind which cards you need, which cards your opponents need. What are the cards on this board that you're just willing to give up? Or what are the cards you just need to stay away from? Now, there are plenty of brain-busting strategy games out there. Games that will fry your brain with all the considerations for every single action that you have to take. But this game works out your brain just the same while staying incredibly accessible. Who knows, this game can be the gateway to those more complicated games. Or it could be a game you pop out because you have 20 minutes to spare on your lunch break. It can play with up to 4 people, this game, but for my money, I think it works best as a 2-player game. Because when it's a 2-player game, it becomes a very chess-like duel of wits, where you're sitting there trying to will your opponent not to put his piece in that boulevard that you need. Or where you'll shriek with terror when he switches that Guild of Architects card that you worked so hard to corner with a militia card that you are now stuck with. So, from me to you, from my heart to you, I wholly recommend this game. It is incredibly sharp. Plus, any given game only sees you using half of the action cards in the box. Add to that the randomly drawn city, plus really cool variants that have secret agendas with each player has, or interesting rule changes, and you have a game that stays fresh every single time it hits the table. So, Guilds of Cadwallon. It's small, it's inexpensive, it's as sharp as a lance, and as easy as a Sunday morning. As we've seen, it can be played as a very good strategy game to work out your brain, but it can also be played casually just to pass the time. And I'm not sure if I really need to say this, but the component quality is amazing. The miniatures in this game are great, plus the illustrations on the cards are amazing. So, there really is no reason not to add Guilds of Cadwallon to your collection. Thank you so much for watching the Inlay. And if you'd like to see more, I've reviewed several gems on this channel, like this game, Eminent Domain, incredibly great deck builder. And this game, Takedo, about walking down a road, still fun. And I've reviewed one not so gem that don't really have much to say. And if you'd like to see the full roster of video and written reviews, go over to istcomics.com/theinlay. And istcomics.com is also the home of Generation, a webcomic about superheroes, pregnancy, and revenge. Either way, thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.